It's 2006. You just got home from school. You drop your backpack on the floor. Don't even unzip it. You sit down in that chair, the one with the wobble in the back left leg that you've just accepted as part of life. You wiggle the mouse to wake the computer up. Windows XP desktop. Maybe a Linkin Park wallpaper. Maybe SpongeBob. No judgment. You open Internet Explorer, or if your older sibling had set it up for you, Firefox. And your fingers already know where they're going before your brain even catches up. Newgrounds.com. The page loads. That little bar at the bottom of the browser creeps forward. You watch it like it owes you money. And then it's there. That orange logo. That skull. That beautiful, chaotic front page packed with games and animations that felt like they were made specifically for you. For the next 2 hours, homework doesn't exist. Parents don't exist. The concept of going outside doesn't exist. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. Here's what people forget about the early 2000s internet. It wasn't clean. It wasn't curated. There was no algorithm handing you exactly what you wanted. The web was this sprawling, slightly dangerous, completely overwhelming place. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, one tiny browser plugin held the whole fun part of the internet together. Adobe Flash Player. Originally Macromedia Flash before Adobe bought it in 2005, Flash was the engine underneath everything interactive. You probably never thought about it once. It was just there, like oxygen. You clicked something, a little logo showed up for half a second, and then, magic. Animation, games, music videos. Interactive experiences that had no business existing on a home computer in 2003. Every website used it. Not some websites. Every website. Your bank's website had a Flash intro. Your local pizza place had a Flash intro. News sites, fan pages, band websites, all of them opened with some 30-second animated sequence you couldn't skip, set to music that loaded 1 agonizing kilobyte at a time. And the loading bars. Oh, the loading bars. Every Flash game had one. You'd sit there watching that little rectangle fill up. Sometimes it took 30 seconds, sometimes 5 full minutes depending on how generous your family's internet plan was. And the anticipation was almost better than the game itself. Almost. Kids today will never understand the ritual of right-clicking a paused Flash game, clicking play, and feeling like an absolute genius hacker. The thing that made Flash genuinely revolutionary, and I don't use that word lightly, was that it was free to use. Not free like free trial, credit card required. Actually free. Any kid with a computer and enough patience to watch a tutorial could download Macromedia Flash MX, crack open a blank canvas, and start building something. Games, animations, interactive art. The barrier between person with an idea and person who published something on the internet was almost non-existent. That had never been true before in the history of media, not even close. Let's talk about the websites first, because the websites were entire cultures unto themselves. Newgrounds was the original. Tom Fulp built it in his college dorm room in the mid-90s as a joke, a side project, a place to dump Flash experiments. By 2002, it was one of the most visited websites on the entire internet. Not most visited gaming websites. Most visited websites. Period. And it wasn't just games. Newgrounds was where the internet went to be weird. This was where you first saw End of Z World, that little blue blob screaming about nuclear war, and forwarded it to everyone you knew on AM. This was where Madness Combat lived, those impossibly violent stick figure animations where one guy in a clown mask murdered literally thousands of enemies across a gray Nevada backdrop, and somehow it was art. This was where a Romanian guy lip-syncing to a pop song became Numa Numa and accidentally invented the concept of a viral video. Newgrounds had a voting system where the community, you, as a 13-year-old with strong opinions, got to decide what stayed up and what got deleted. You would blame bad submissions into oblivion. You would protect good ones. You had power. You had responsibility. You took it extremely seriously. Then there was Miniclip. Where Newgrounds was the Wild West, Miniclip was the shopping mall. Still exciting, but somebody had swept the floors. This was the site you could play at school without feeling like you were doing something wrong. Penguin Bash. Pool Pro Online. 8-ball quick fire pool. If your school's computer lab had internet access and a loose interpretation of the acceptable use policy, you were on Miniclip at some point. Addicting Games was the one bookmarked on the family computer. Parents knew about Addicting Games. It was practically endorsed by them. Oh, you're just playing on Addicting Games? Okay, 20 more minutes. Nickelodeon eventually bought it, which tells you everything about how it was perceived. And then Armor Games and Congregate came along slightly later and formalized the whole thing. Achievement systems, leaderboards, developer communities. They turned Flash gaming from a hobby into something that felt almost like a legitimate industry. But let's get to the games, because the games are why you're here. Stick RPG. If you don't remember Stick RPG, I envy you because you get to remember it for the first time right now. You were a stick figure. You woke up in a new city. You got a job, maybe at the burger place, maybe at the shady corporation. You drank energy drinks to raise your stats. You could become the mayor. You could join the mob. The entire game was a 2D cityscape that felt enormous even though it was maybe 5 screens wide, and you treated your stick figure's life with a level of investment and care that you absolutely did not bring to your actual homework. Line Rider. Oh, Line Rider. You drew lines. Your little guy on a sled rode them. That was it. That was the entire game. And yet people spent weeks, literal weeks, building these elaborate roller coaster tracks set to music, each one more insane than the last, and uploaded them to YouTube before YouTube even really knew what it was for. Line Rider wasn't a game. It was a physics sandbox dressed up as a game, and it accidentally taught a generation of kids something about momentum and gravity, and what happens when you send someone off a cliff at 200 miles an hour. Interactive Buddy was exactly what the name promised, and somehow still managed to be more than that. There was a little ragdoll character in a bubble. You clicked him. He reacted. You could hit him with a baseball bat. You could set him on fire. You could cover him in magnets and watch him jitter around the screen. It sounds cruel written out like that, and I suppose it was, but every single person who played it will tell you the same thing. You felt a little bad for him. He made little sounds. He had little expressions. You'd wail on him for 20 minutes and then just let him rest for a second. The fact that we developed genuine empathy for a collection of pixels in a physics engine says something profound about human nature that I am not qualified to unpack. The Impossible Quiz was designed by a man named Splap Me Do, and it was designed to humiliate you specifically. The questions had nothing to do with their answers. What is the color of a cloud? The answer was the letter Q. There was no logic. There was no mercy. You had a limited number of skips, and the game watched you use them with visible contempt. Millions of people played it. Millions of people were outsmarted by a flash game made in someone's bedroom, and they came back the next day and tried again. The N game, just N, was a game about a stick figure ninja who could run on walls and ceilings and had to collect gold and reach the exit door. The physics felt like nothing else. The controls were so precise that the gap between you understand the physics and you die instantly was maybe 2 frames wide, level after level after level, each one a tiny puzzle box of death. And you kept going because occasionally you'd thread a needle run that felt so good, so perfectly executed, that it briefly justified your entire existence. Let's talk about Happy Wheels. If you went to school anytime between 2010 and 2015, you have seen Happy Wheels on a school computer. Probably on a computer that was absolutely not supposed to be running Happy Wheels. It was a physics-based ragdoll game where you, and I want to be precise here, guided various poorly equipped civilians through obstacle courses specifically designed to destroy them. A dad on a bicycle, a guy in a wheelchair, an old man on a Segway. All of them meeting ends that would make a trauma surgeon look away. It was completely inappropriate. It was wildly, aggressively inappropriate. And approximately 10 million children played it every single day. YouTubers like PewDiePie built entire early careers screaming at Happy Wheels. The game became a phenomenon not because of polish or production budget, it had neither, but because it was fun in that specific, chaotic, genuinely unhinged way that only Flash games seem to nail. Jim Bonacci made it, one developer, a Flash game. Now compare that to Fancy Pants Adventure. Brad Bourne released Fancy Pants in 2006, and it felt like a mistake. Not a bad mistake. The other kind. The kind where you're playing something in a browser at no cost whatsoever, and your brain keeps going. Why is this free? This moves like a console game. The animation is silky. The platforming feels good. This should cost money. Someone should be selling this. But it was just there, on the internet, for anyone. That was the magic and the tragedy of Flash in one game. And then there was Madness Combat. Crinkles posted the first episode on Newgrounds in 2002, and what followed was one of the most absurdly compelling stick figure action series the internet has ever produced. The protagonist, Hank, just fights everyone, constantly, with escalating weaponry and escalating stakes and zero dialogue, and somehow it was more cinematic than half the action movies coming out of Hollywood that decade. Newgrounds users would wait for new episodes like people wait for prestige television. Bennett Foddy made a game about running. 4 keys, Q, W, O, P. Each one controlled a different part of your runner's legs. Simple concept, impossible execution. The world record for Q-WOP is still a point of genuine debate and achievement. People spent hours, trying to make a fictional cartoon man run 100 meters. We were not okay. We were having the time of our lives. And while everyone was watching their Q-WOP runner collapse, Cannibalt quietly changed gaming forever. Adam Saltzman's 2009 one-button infinite runner, you just jump, that's it, one button, basically invented a genre. Every mobile endless runner you've ever played, Temple Run, Jetpack Joyride, Alto's Adventure, they're all downstream of a Flash game some guy made in 72 hours for a game jam. And Bloons Tower Defense, still alive, still getting sequels. Ninja Kiwi turned a Flash game about monkeys popping balloons into a franchise that exists to this day. A franchise. But here is the thing I need you to understand about all of these games, about all of this. Tom Fulp built Newgrounds from his bedroom in the late 90s. He coded it himself. He fostered a community that became a launchpad. Edmund Macmillan posted games on Newgrounds, weird, experimental, often disturbing Flash games, and then went on to make Super Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac, two of the most critically acclaimed indie games ever made. Dan Paladin did Newgrounds animations, then went on to make Alien Hominid and Castle Crashers with the Behemoth. These people were indie developers before anyone was using the word indie. They were building careers, sharpening skills, finding audiences, all through a plugin that ran in a browser window. Flash wasn't just a game platform, it was a film school, a game studio, an animation workshop, and a distribution network all in one, and it was free, and it was open, and almost anyone could walk through the door. December 31st, 2020. Adobe killed Flash Player, not deprecated, not phased out slowly with a grace period and a gentle transition. Killed. Chrome blocked it. Firefox blocked it. Edge blocked it. And with that, thousands upon thousands of games, entire ecosystems of creative work, became unplayable, not lost, not archived somewhere safe and accessible, just blocked, grayed out, a broken plugin icon where something you loved used to live. People have described what happened to the Flash archive as burning down a library. I think that's right. Imagine if Netflix deleted every movie made before 2000. Imagine if Spotify erased every album from before the streaming era. That's roughly what happened to Flash, except the people who made those games never had the resources to preserve them properly in the first place. The internet held a funeral. Tribute videos, compilation streams, long Reddit threads where people typed the names of games they might never play again, like they were reading names off a memorial wall. Newgrounds, to their enormous credit, began integrating the Ruffle emulator, an open-source Flash emulator built in Rust, trying to keep as much alive as possible. Tom Fulp refused to let his platform's history disappear quietly. But it wasn't the same. It isn't the same. The Flashpoint Preservation Project, run entirely by volunteers, has archived over 150,000 Flash games and animations. 150,000. That number should astonish you. That is the scale of what nearly disappeared. And because of those people, a huge amount of it survived. Ruffle keeps things running on Newgrounds. Archive.org has caches. The work is being done. But you can't preserve the feeling. You can't archive the specific sensation of being 11 years old at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday when the house was quiet and the homework wasn't done yet, opening Internet Explorer, and finding something you had never seen before, something nobody had recommended to you through an algorithm, something you found because you clicked on it and it looked interesting. That was Flash. That was what it actually was. It was the last era where anyone, any teenager in a bedroom, any weird creative person with no money and no connections, could make something and put it in front of millions of people for free. No App Store submission process, no algorithm deciding whether your content was brand safe, no monetization strategy, no platform gatekeeping. You made something. You uploaded it. People played it. That era is gone. And I'm not sure it's coming back. Something that shaped an entire generation of players, creators, and developers just quietly stopped working. And most people didn't even notice until it was already over. Drop the Flash game that defined your childhood in the comments. I want to see every single one. I want the obscure ones nobody else remembers. I want the ones your school specifically tried to block. I want the ones you played until your mom said dinner was ready 3 times. And if you were ever brave enough to attempt the impossible quiz, you already know exactly what question 42 is. You don't forget question 42.